Welcome to the program, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. We'll be live on the air in seconds. We got a lot to cover. I can't wait. Welcome, everyone, to the program. My name is Brian Craig. You are listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. We've got so much to cover. President Trump, I mean, my goodness, every day he's just doing incredible things, and there is a lot of breaking news that we're going to cover on the program involving our favorite president, our greatest president, Donald Trump, and of course, take your calls. I can't believe it's Thursday already. Isn't that crazy? This week is flying by. You know why it's flying by? It's because we are in the golden age of America in Trump's second non-consecutive term. But I don't want the weeks to go by fast. I want this Trump second term to go by slow. I want to savor and enjoy every moment of it. I mean, I'm having a good time. I know MAGA people are too, but it's going by too fast, okay? We're over 100 days now. President Trump yesterday in the cabinet meeting suggested something that it has to be done. And he knew exactly what he was saying and I'll play you the audio in a few minutes, although the audio is very low, but I'll tell you what it is. But if you know, these cabinet meetings that President Trump has live on television, each one of them is history in the making. We have never had cabinet meetings live like this before. I always wondered what they did in there. Now we know. And it's not just transparency. He goes one by one through each cabinet member. They brief the president on what they've done, what they're doing, and what they're going to do. And if you have the ability to do it when he has the cabinet meetings, watch them in their entirety. Even if it's not live, if it's later in the day, watch them in their entirety. Not the bits and pieces that the media feed to you, okay? This has never happened before. All the other presidents have had cabinet meetings too, but you don't see them in progress. What they normally do, if you see anything, is they bring everybody in, they sit at the table, you get some photographs and a couple videos of them smiling, and that's it. We're seeing the actual cabinet meetings live on TV. This is transparency times infinity. You know, when the philanderer in chief, Bill Clinton, who was accused of rape and beating women up and everything, he's almost like this fake Maryland man. By the way, I've got the story, the breakdown on the MS-13 tattoo, which we're going to get to later. But Bill Clinton, when he was running for president, he was still Governor Clinton. But when he was running for president, Clinton said, Governor Clinton promised, when I'm president, this will be the most transparent administration in history. There'll be no smoke-filled backroom deal-making. Everything will be public. Well, that was a lie, and it never happened. President Trump is the most transparent president in the history of the American presidency. Everything he does it live. He has the press there. You see everything. And these cabinet meetings are exciting. So if you can catch the cabinet meetings in their entirety, you learn a lot of stuff that they don't want you to know about in the fake news mainstream media. But the biggest story to come out of the cabinet meeting isn't really being talked about in the news today. But I'm going to talk about it because I think it's amazing. President Trump said that he is considering suspending habeas corpus for the illegals, which, I mean, that's phenomenal. Now, for you liberals in the audience, now again, it's just for the illegals, no one else. What that means is no lawyer, no judge, you get picked up and you're deported. That's it. And this has been done by other presidents. Franklin Delano Roosevelt did it. President Lincoln did it. I think U.S. Grant did it. I could be wrong about that one, but I know FDR and Lincoln did it. And the reason that FDR and Lincoln suspended habeas corpus is because our country was under attack and being invaded, like it is now by the illegals, right? You know, I'll just tell you the two real quick, and then we'll get into the details on Trump. FDR suspended habeas corpus because for two groups of people, Japanese and Germans. The Japanese had a spy network from Hawaii all the way to New York and everywhere in between. They had nationwide, the Japanese, before Pearl Harbor, had Michelle Malkin writes about this in a book that she wrote not long after 9/11 called The Case for Internment. I don't know if that book's still available. I wish I still had it. It's a great book. Michelle Malkin, great conservative voice we don't hear from anymore. She got kind of canceled by Ben Shapiro and some others. But she wrote this book called The Case for Internment. And it explained, she's a Republican, but it explained why President Roosevelt put in internment camps Americans of Japanese descent. The Japanese had these social clubs in every city and town in America. And what the FDR administration learned after Pearl Harbor, it was a spy operation for the Empire of Japan. So we suspended habeas corpus so they could round up these spies around the nation. Also, Germans who could pass as Americans, and many Americans of German descent went back to Germany and came back here to do terrorism and sabotage. It was for them too. There was a group of 5 German spies. Some of them were Americans, but they went to Germany, got all Nazi'd up, and they landed here in Florida. And they got them up north not long after they got here, but they were here to blow up power plants and stuff and spread fear and chaos. And they got these guys, and because Roosevelt had suspended habeas corpus, these German terrorists were arrested and were executed like 5 days after they were captured, maybe a week. I read a book about it many years ago. But within a week after their capture, because he suspended habeas corpus, these Nazi who were born American, many of them born in the United States, they might have all been born in the United States. That's why they sent them here, were executed because there was no habeas corpus. Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, which means no lawyer, no trial, no judge, no nothing. And Lincoln did it because the lowlife Democrats who were waging an insurrection against the federal government, it's known as the Civil War in the mainstream, but it was the Democrat insurrection against the federal government. They were infiltrating because they looked like us and spoke our language and everything else. And not all of them had Southern accents because some of them were kind of far north, like in Maryland. And he suspended habeas corpus. Both Roosevelt and Lincoln suspended habeas corpus for the same reason Trump is considering doing it. That is because this country is under invasion. World War II, it was Japanese and Germans. Civil War, it was these Democrats who were causing terrorism. In fact, if I remember now, again, if I remember correctly, the Democrats in Maryland were going to start blowing up, I guess, with dynamite railroad tracks. So Lincoln suspended habeas corpus so they could pick them up, and he kept it through the war, suspended. We have been invaded now. We have millions and millions of illegals, many of them violent criminals involved in drug trafficking, slavery, all kinds of things. So President Trump suspending any habeas corpus, it's got to be done. It's a smart move. I was so excited when I heard him talking about it in the cabinet meeting yesterday. You've got these corrupt judges who are waging a law insurrection or a law coup against the presidency of the United States, who are doing everything they can do to stop the deportations. And what they want to do is have trials for all the illegals. Well, that's like 20 million trials. Can't do that. So the suspension of habeas corpus, I think, would have strong support in the country. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, good morning, Brian. This is Richie.
Yeah, Richie.
This habeas corpus, I think I really think this is trolling the people, because what you neglected to say is we were in a civil war. It was called a war. It was a declaration of war against the Confederacy and Germany and Japan. 160-something countries have invaded this country with illegal immigrants, but we're not at war with these.
No,
countries.
But he's declared. He's
a total troll.
No, he's declared MS-13 and the Trinidad de Aquafina guys terrorist organizations.
That's an organization.
So when you have, well, hold on a
within-
second. The country has been invaded. If we were invaded like this with ISIS and Al Qaeda, you would do the same thing. The Trinidad and the MS-13ers are the same as an invading force of ISIS or Al Qaeda.
I agree with you, but I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way that the courts in this country, this won't stand 5 minutes.
They don't have say over it. It's part of his. There is legal precedent for it because of Roosevelt. And by the way, excuse me, hold on. Ulysses S. Grant did it. The war was over. Okay, the war was over, and Ulysses S. Grant did it during the Reconstruction period. Because the Klan and everything. The war was over. The war was over.
Yeah, but how about Germany and Japan?
Well, no, there was declared war then, but when President Grant did it, he was the second president after the war, right? We had Andrew Johnson. The war was over after the Democrats killed Lincoln, and then U.S. Grant. The war was over.
But there were still enemies of this country because
like the terrorists. So you're, I see what you're saying, but U.S. Grant did it, and there was no war then.
Well, I got to tell you, I don't think it'll fly because you're talking about 160 countries or something like that invading our country.
Listen, President Trump. They nothing flies with the haters of Trump, right? They're giving him a hard time because he wore a blue suit, right? You know, when they're going after him because he's wearing a blue suit, there's nothing he can do that's going to fly with them.
But I think this is a troll job. It'll never happen. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, all right. Appreciate the call. We'll take our first break. If you'd like to call in, please do. It's a toll-free call. I think this is spectacular. 1-888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you are listening. 888-465-2631. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll take our break and be back with your calls. Be right back, guys. All right, if you're on hold, hang in there. All right, we'll be back in about 90 seconds. If you're on hold, hang in there. Callers on hold, stand by. America strong, that's right. It's the golden age of America. Stand by. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. President Trump hinted yesterday in the cabinet meeting he's going to suspend habeas corpus for illegals. All right, let's go back to the calls. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Mike from Louisiana.
Oh, hey, Mike. Yes?
Yeah.
You're on.
I love Richie to death, but, I mean, sometimes he just argues just to argue.
No, he's, the thing with Richie, you know what Richie likes more than anybody else? When he calls in and then afterwards people say his name. But Richie, like you're doing or I'm doing now, but he's a guy who's like depressed. So he sees doom and gloom in everything because he's down in the dumps. Everything's negative with him. No, this is a brilliant idea, and Trump is serious as a heart attack. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Vaughn, Indiana.
Hey, Vaughn, what's up?
Hey, I was just wondering.
Oh, here we go.
These people have been designated terrorists.
Correct.
And our military has been fighting a lot of them overseas. I'm just wondering, why the heck are they not going around door to door and rounding these people up?
Because in the United States, listen, you don't have the military going door to door in the United States. The military, you use these federal agents. Why do you think you use?
But these people
hold on a second. Slow down. Why? And now we're talking about inside U.S. borders, okay? Like in neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Yeah.
Between the training of the military and the training of ICE or FBI or these federal agents? What's the difference? Why would you not want the military but the police or federal agents going door to door?
I suppose you probably wouldn't want a lot of the I guess, collateral damage that would
collateral damage, yeah. Okay, the military, federal agents, okay, they're trained to arrest people. What are the military trained to do? Kill and blow things up. So you can't have the military, you can't have the U.S. Marines going through neighborhoods. They don't have the training. It would be very dangerous. But you understand? Does that make sense to you? Well, hold on one. Let me answer all these calls that are coming in. But does that make sense to you?
It does, but I was just wondering why. Okay, if that's the case, why aren't we getting like legit people in our law enforcement to like?
We are. There's mass roundups going on all over the country.
Yeah, I got thousands of them here, bro. I do not see that. I'm just saying. That's all I got to say.
Well, they just did over the week. Well, you may not be living in the neighborhood where they're doing it, but here in Florida, where I live, over the weekend, they had a massive roundup with ICE over the weekend. As far as the military is at the southern border, protecting it and apprehending people that are jumping into the country. But you can't have the military going in, calling in airstrikes and everything in suburban America.
Do that.
Well, that's what what they're trained to do.
Well, they can be trained to do anything. They're not stupid people. We don't just bring in. You don't know
the military.
It don't work like
when
that.
you hear Pete Hegseth, he's
They're
always
smart. They can figure it out.
Okay, when you hear Pete Hegseth talk, like yesterday in the cabinet meeting, he talks about lethality, right? The military is about lethality, not arresting people. They're not a police force.
Yes, sir.
All right, appreciate the call. All right, I think he rethought his position. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Montana Mark.
Oh, hey, Mark.
Yesterday's cabinet meeting is the second one I watched from beginning to end, and I'm just amazed to look at these people that are professional, they're intelligent, and I'm guessing maybe there's 30 people in that cabinet meeting.
Including Elon Musk at the head of the table. Yeah, I know, they're great. Those of you that don't get to watch the cabinet meetings live, they are online. You should, after 9, don't do anything until after 9, but listen to me. But if you can watch these cabinet meetings in their entirety, they'll blow your mind. They're amazing. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Andrew. I'm calling from Denver, Colorado.
All right, Andrew in Colorado. What's up?
I was just wondering how you can justify Trump's actions without due process for people like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Mahmoud Khalil, who was speaking out against Palestine. I don't think anybody should be.
Okay, well let's stop and talk about them. Now I'm gonna explain. Now maybe you just don't know what's going on because you're in Denver, you're a mile high from sea level, and there's less oxygen there. I'm in Florida, I'm at sea level, so I have more oxygen in my brain than you. Maybe that's why I'm MAGA and you're a liberal. But let's talk about Garcia first.
It's not about liberal or
hold on. Listen. I'm going to share with you. Okay, I'm going to do one at a time. The first one, Garcia, the Maryland man. He's the one who beats his wife up with a closed fist.
Yeah, and it's his wife who's actively trying to get him back.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. I wouldn't. Hold on. Slow down. Slow down. I wouldn't be so sure about that. But let me tell you about him. He had due process. Okay. Now hold on. I'm going to answer all these. The phones are ringing off the hooks. But he had due process. He was apprehended and was taken in front of an immigration judge, a federal judge. The judge said deport him. He had lawyers, so he appealed the decision. He went to an appellate federal judge, and that judge said deport him. So that's due process. You don't just keep going to court for the rest of your life until you get a verdict you want. Garcia had due process. He went before 2 federal judges, one of them an appellate judge. That's it. He's out. Okay? The other one, who was the other one you mentioned? Which one? Did I lose you? All right, you hang in there. I guess I lost. The other one, he was talking about these students with their student visas, okay? When you're a guest in this country with a visa of any kind, you're a guest in this country. It is not a right for you to be here. You're a guest. And when you're at Columbia University or anywhere, and you're organizing and advocating for a terrorist organization and organizing an anti-Semitic hate movement against Jews, your visa's no good anymore. You're out. Okay? And the example I know liberals like the terrorist organization Hamas because Hamas hates Jews and attacks Jews and kills Jews and all of that. But I want you guys to think about this. If I was on the air here advocating for ISIS and Al-Qaeda, how long do you think I'd be on the air? Right? They'd come pick me up too. You cannot, even as an American, you cannot organize and advocate for terrorist organizations, which is what these deported students and things with their visas are. Okay, that's the way it is. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Donnie. How are you doing?
All right, Donnie. What's on your mind?
Just thinking about Trump and taking a big old piss on him.
Oh, that's nice. Class act. All right, if you're on hold, hang in there. We'll take our break for the bottom of the hour and be right back. Nice guy. If you're on hold, hang in there. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll be back shortly, guys. And I will go back to the phones when we get back. If you love Trump, press 1. I love Trump. And you can press a 1 for me. If you love Trump, press 1. Yes. Oh, there's no other options, just 1. Yeah, liberals have a very short vocabulary. No video calls. You can call me live on the air. We're on a whole bunch of radio stations. We take phone calls. The number's pinned in the live chat. You're welcome to call me. I've got callers on hold. You're all welcome. The toll-free number is pinned inside the chat. Why don't I like liberals are evil people, man? They're trying to bring a wife beater back into the home and move him in with the woman he beats up. Right? The Democrats brought all these murdering, rapist, criminal slavers into our country. They're terrible people, Democrats. Liberals, terrible. There's no good liberal out there. But if you take issue with anything I'm saying, you can call in. There's 2 openings on the board. We'll be back in a little more than a minute. Yeah, if you're new, make sure you subscribe. This is where MAGA comes to talk. That's right. Welcome. Yeah, been doing this for 30 years, man. 30 years. One minute. We'll be back in 1 minute. $30 seconds. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Call us on hold. Stand by. Ten seconds. We're back. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. On the radio since 1977. President Trump talking about suspending habeas corpus for illegals, which means no lawyer, no judge, no court, just you get picked up and you're gone, deported. And this, of course, is a great thing. It's been done by presidents before. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Brian's brain. My name is just Jane Truth, and I'm calling from the Ozarks in Missouri.
All right.
Country.
All right. What's up?
Well, living in God's country where we enjoy creeks and streams, we're far from the mainstream. So I'm calling to find out, who would you say is the subject matter expert in the current political waters on the kingdom of God replacing Satan's entire earthly matrix?
Well, that's not what we're talking about today, but thanks for listening. All right, take care. Oh, my goodness. She spent too much time alone in the hills, I think. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brian, this is Katina from Baltimore.
Hey, Katina, what's up?
I don't know if you mentioned it. I was about 5 minutes late to the show.
Oh, no.
You mentioned about Obama suspending habeas corpus?
No,
in 2012, I think.
Really? No, tell me about that. I did not know that.
He. I think he. I'd have to look it up now, but I do remember it was a big to do about him at his whim. I mean, there was no war going on. There were no riots, and it was around the time he was talking about the People's Army.
Okay, I pulled up. Okay, this is I pulled it up. This I just Googled it real quick. Okay, and I found a press release from the ACLU about it back in 2011. Okay, it says here President Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act. The statute contains a sweeping worldwide indefinite detention provision. Obama issued a signing statement saying he had serious reservations, but he signed it anyway. Let's see here. Who did they go after?
They could go after anyone, but definitely any terrorist threat.
So I'm glad you called in, Katina, because now I didn't remember that. Now I do, and I read it. Yeah. So we've got President Obama, President FDR, President Lincoln, President U.S. Grant. We have 4 American presidents who have done it, including recently Obama, and there was no war at all then either.
Exactly. And I remember it really turned me off against him big time. And, I'm amazed no one has brought that up. Just skimming this ACLU press release. I'll read more about it as this show goes on during the breaks, but it was for terrorists, right? And no, it was against anybody.
Well, they could use it against anybody.
The J6, when they arrested the J6 people, I thought they were relying on that. They were using that authorization because I don't recall anyone getting rid of it.
It says here. This is an article in The Nation from January 4th, 2012. Obama and the indefinite detention of U.S. citizens. Oh my goodness! With the signing, and this is what The Nation says. And by the way, Democrat. The Nation's liberal. He's a Democrat. This is The Nation, 2012. With the signing of the National Defense Authorization Act, President Obama has brought Guantanamo-style justice to the United States. Habeas corpus is suspended with that.
Yeah, that was. I just I remember that very clearly.
Yeah,
and no one seems to remember that.
I'm glad you did because now we've got and I hope if anybody's at Mar-a-Lago tuned in today. Because President Trump, he didn't reference Obama. He referenced FDR, Lincoln, and Grant when he talked about this. And this is kind of something that's under the radar. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it is because first off, there wasn't any civil war, or we weren't involved in any wars anywhere, except for the 9/11 attack.
Well, no, that's hey, listen, if Obama can do it, in 2011, 2012. When they're, why can't Trump?
They did so many things. The Democrats did a lot of the things that Trump is enacting now, and they're totally against it.
Including the millions of illegals that Obama deported. Millions.
Exactly. Yeah. And the detention and the separation and
suspension of habeas corpus. Now they used other words, so it didn't sound like that, but he did it. Obama did it.
How many people know what habeas corpus is? All you're going to get are a bunch of
by the end of today, by the end of today, people will know because everyone's going to be talking about this everywhere. I hope this. To me, that's the big lead story of the day. It's not being treated that way because I don't know the reporter that asked him. I don't know who he is. So the reporter that asked him might have been one of those guest reporters, not one of the mainstream. So they don't want to give credibility to those people. But that was the big takeaway from the cabinet meeting yesterday. Well, Katina, thanks for the intel.
Listen, real quick. And there was a reporter or a journalist that sued Obama over it.
I remember that. I do remember that. I can't remember who, but I do remember a reporter suing him over it. Yeah, you're right. I do remember that.
I hope you promote that because
Yeah,
no one
I
else
will
is.
definitely look into that. As you know, it's all over the internet. All right, appreciate the call, Katina. Well, thank you, Katina. Thank you so much. Wow, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. Jeff from Maine.
Hey, Jeff.
Trolls are out in force in your chat room this morning. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's the golden age of America. Trump's first 100 days have been spectacular, so they're unglued.
President Trump has every right to enact habeas corpus, and he's doing it correctly. And his cabinet is the most intelligent, transparent, and by the end of his first year, America is going to be so great again. Anyone that's against America First, MAGA, God, family, country, why don't you go to a communist country and try to live there and see what happens? These people are so blind by hatred. The Democrats have done this. They pit us against each other and want to keep us not focused on government.
Yeah.
Trump's saying, hey, focus on my government because this is how you do it.
Well, what you're seeing with these people, they've been brainwashed in our education system and our media. And they think all these terrible things that are just not true.
Yeah, and that's what I've always said. If we don't do education reform, everything else is non-existence because we need to train our children with truth. And we're fighting, this is evil versus good straight up. And it's so obvious. And the people that are in darkness refuse to come to the light, the Bible says, because it'll expose their evil deeds. And we're gonna just sit back and watch President Trump do what and I think, who I think could be the next president of the United States, and he's doing a great job, is Rubio.
Oh, Marco Rubio's awesome. Yeah.
He's doing an awesome job.
All right, Jeff, I appreciate the call. You made some good points. I agree with them all. And, Jeff said, find a communist country. That's a little more difficult to do than it used to be. There aren't that many. Most of the communist countries have failed, right? All right. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Andrew again.
Andrew, it's one call per day. One call per day, but you're new to the show.
To continue our conversation.
You're new to the show, so I'll let you back on. But after this, it's one call per day. You can call me every day, but only once.
Sure, I don't imagine I'll be.
Yeah, we got disconnected, but so I'll let you back on. But I explained both of those instances. I explained to you Garcia, and these students and others on their visas. When you have a visa. Like these Columbia students and stuff.
Oh, I agree with you. The president has total control over that process and who gets a visa and whether or not he wants to revoke a visa is up to him. I just think it's setting a very dangerous precedent that we're.
Let's talk about these visa holders. Okay, when you're a visa holder, you're a guest in the country. A lot of people say that these deportations of these advocate for Hamas students and stuff is a violation.
It's not Hamas. It's Palestine. I mean, they're different.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on a second. I don't want. I'm not. Hold on. Just slow down. Slow down. What people say, it's a violation of the First Amendment rights to free speech. Right. That's what a lot of people say. Do you agree with that? That's because that's what a lot of the defenders are saying. The First Amendment rights are being violated. Do you agree with that?
Sure.
Okay. The First Amendment. There are limitations on the First Amendment. Okay? And there's a couple, that I'll tell you about right now. Hold on.
In a crowded space.
No, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's not one of them. That's no. The limitation on the First Amendment is this. You cannot incite violence against others. What these students are doing with their visas that are being deported, is they are organizing for a terrorist organization, Hamas, that kills Jews. If I were
I think they're being really disingenuous about your depiction of that. But anyway.
No, well, that's what they're doing. I could not go on the air.
They're not.
Human
rights for Palestinians.
No. They're advocating for Hamas. Okay, if you can, and they're also organizing a hate group movement against Jews. You can't do that, okay? They're organizing and inciting violence. If I were on the air advocating for ISIS and Al-Qaeda, do you think I'd be allowed to do that? Or would they come get me?
Look, it's not supporting Hamas, it's supporting Palestinians.
No, it's supporting Hamas.
I wanted to talk about something different.
Okay.
I wanted to get back to illegal immigration, right?
Okay.
What is Trump actually doing to help immigration, right? He's not hiring more judges for immigration.
And we don't need more judges. We have too many. What's he doing? I'll tell you what he's doing. Illegal border. Hold on. You asked a question. What's he doing about immigration? Illegal border crossings are down 99.99%. Almost 100% illegal border crossings. 99.99% they're down. That's what he's doing. He's closed our border from illegals.
Sure, but most illegal immigrants actually come over on planes and overstay their legal visas.
Well, they're still illegal. No, not most. Some of them do. Some of them were brought here on planes illegally by Biden.
I mean, okay. Look, here's the thing. I don't think Trump is actually trying to solve any issue around immigration. I think he's using it as a banner issue and persecuting and making an example out of people he disagrees with.
Really?
Which I think is very wrong.
You mean like the rape the rapist murderer of Lincoln Riley?
Look, illegal. Okay, look, but you're peddling a lie. Illegal migrants commit less crime per capita than regular citizens.
You're wrong. They have the highest crime rate. No, you're slow down. You're wrong.
But
they have the highest crime rate. They have the highest crime rate.
I'm looking at. Man, but you're just lying.
No, I'm not. Let me explain it. Let me explain.
Reality.
The illegals have the highest crime rate of any other group in the United States. It is a 100% crime rate. They're here illegally. They're all criminals.
Okay, but look, I'm not talking about but when people talk about crime, we're talking about serious things like rapes, murders. You brought up rape and murder as an example, right? We're not
that's
talking
the worst.
about that. That's a civil infraction. Jaywalking is a civil infraction.
Excuse me. No, you're wrong. Not only do they have a 100% crime rate because they're all criminals, entering the United States illegally is a federal crime. It's a federal crime. Did you pass out? Yeah, he's gone.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Oh, he's gone. Listen, we got to run for the break, but thanks for the call. One call per day. You can call me tomorrow. All right. If you're on hold, hang in there. I want to talk about Jupiter Joe Thomas. Listen, every day you hear somebody call and say, "How's your 401k doing, Brian?" I don't have a 401k. I don't invest in the stock market. And the reason I don't is I don't like living through the stress of the ups and downs of the stock market. I know people that are heavily invested in the stock market, and they'll call, and sometimes it's good news. Oh, man, I made $85,000 today, or I lost $50,000. Oh, my goodness. I can't live like that. With annuities, your savings, your nest egg is always safe. No matter what happens in the market, you don't lose it. Plus, you have a guaranteed income stream for the rest of your life. Joe Thomas, he's great. Protect your money from stock market losses. Stop losing your hard-earned money. Call Joe Thomas and take advantage of his free phone consultation, which you can take advantage of no matter where you are in the United States. And I want to tell you guys this. Joe Thomas has been in the retirement planning industry for over 30 years. He's a 5-time qualifying member of the $1 Million Roundtable, which is achieved by less than 1% of all financial advisors in the world. So, you know what the value of that free phone consultation is? He's a top man in the industry. And after you have the free phone consultation, he's going to put together a custom proposal for you based on your situation, your goals, and everything. Give him a call, 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. That's 561-743-0999. If you missed the number, just go to his website, jupiterjoe.com. We'll be right back. Is there a source? Okay. If you are in the country illegally, if you're an illegal immigrant, you're a criminal. You've committed a crime. That's the source. All illegals are criminals because they're here illegally. It's a 100% crime rate. You know, a lot of these things, those of you that are new to the program, you're hearing these truths that I'm sharing in ways you've never heard them before. So I know it's shocking and causing some of you to have strokes, right? I mean, you know, I get it. But that's the way it is. Melissa, thank you so much, Melissa. Awesome for that super chat. If you're new to the program, make sure you subscribe. And those of you who want to hold standby, I'm going to go to the phones after the break. We'll be back in about a minute. And I'm going to go right back to the phones. Less than a minute. We'll be back. Right? If they're here illegally, it's a 100% crime rate, right? They're criminals just by being here. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. President Trump talking about suspending habeas corpus for illegals. That's what we've been talking about this hour. Back to our phones. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. This is Randy from South Mississippi.
Hey, Randy. What's up?
Quick comment. Brian, watched cabinet meetings yesterday. You need to get one of those Gulf of America hats, the black ones that he had sitting on the table, and throw that on one of your shows. Love the show. Go Trump. Trump all the way. Have a good day.
All right. Yeah. Well, I have that on order. I have on order from the official Trump store a Gulf of America hat, and not the black one, but there's another one that I like a little bit better. But I've got a from the official Trump store. I've got a Gulf of America hat on the way, and I also ordered the Trump 2028 hat. But they're all sold out on back order, so I don't know when I'm going to get it. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name's Steve. I'm calling from Florida, and I just wanted to say real quick that Donald Trump fucks children.
Okay, there we go, Mike. First dump of the day. Wow, what a class act. You know, I don't know what goes through the minds. You know, there's been a lot of talk lately. If you're on hold, hang in there. We got to wait for the delay to re-engage. There's been a lot of talk lately about the language issues with the younger generations today, that they're, exactly. Our number 1-888-465-2631. Now, while I'm waiting for the delay to build back up, let me play the audio. The audio is a little low, but I want to play it. This is from the cabinet meeting yesterday. A reporter asks him the question, and then Trump alludes to the suspension of habeas corpus.
You mentioned this last night in your speech in Macomb, that we're facing an unprecedented situation where there's a lot of abuses of nationwide injunctions, sort of seemingly designed to curtail your power, specifically when it comes to deporting these illegal, violent aliens that came in under the previous administration. Yeah. Have you spoken to your team about ways to mitigate this and continue to deliver for the American people?
Well, there are ways to mitigate it, and there's some very strong ways. There's one way that's been used by 3 very highly respected presidents, but we hope we don't have to go that route. But there is one way that has been used very successfully by 3 presidents, all highly respected.
Okay, now I'm wondering if he's thinking about, like Katina brought up, that Obama did this. I bet you he is. President Trump's always at least 5 steps ahead of the rest. Okay, the delay is re-engaged. You're on the air. No, not that one. Okay, you're off. Okay, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Jim from Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Jim. Yes.
Yeah,
you're on the air.
Hello?
You're on the air. You called me. Yes. All right. I would thank you for the call, but if I did that, I'd be lying. I don't want to do that. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm just letting you know Trump is on the Epstein list. I don't know why you ignored that guy's call and hung up on him.
Because he used
like
profanity.
propaganda.
There's certain language you can't use on the radio.
It doesn't matter. It's the truth. You're using
really?
propaganda to hide it.
What? First off, what you said is not true.
No. What I said is the truth. Okay, you're just a propaganda.
No, in fact, when
Trump is a convicted sexual abuser.
No, he's not a
and
convicted
he is
sex.
on
No,
the
that is not
Epstein
true.
list, okay?
None of that's
Bye.
true. None of that's true. Oh, he hung up. None of that's true. See, this, a lot of what you get on the left is this la 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 la. They don't want to hear anything. He hung up on himself. I did not hang up on him, and everything he said was untrue. But you guys know that. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello. My name is Mark. I'm calling from Miami.
Where in Miami?
Hello?
Yeah, where in Miami?
Miami.
Oh, really? What part of Miami?
Miami Beach.
Yeah. What's the road just east of Miami Beach?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's because you're not in Miami Beach. All right, thank you for the call. That would be Collins Avenue, by the way. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Joshua from Alabama.
Yeah, Joshua.
I just wanted to try to correct the record on the National Defense Authorization Act about the indefinite detentions. There's a misapprehension. That only applies to Al-Qaeda, Taliban, and the associated forces of those people.
Uh-huh.
Any other group cannot be looped into that.
Well,
'cause it
according
specifically
to the ACLU and the nation, which is liberal, that was not the case when Obama reauthorized it. However, if what you said is true, it applies to what Trump is suggesting, because MS-13 and the Trende de Aquafina guys, like ISIS and Al-Qaeda, are official terrorist organizations, according to the United States government, and they would be out.
Well, the statute says what the statute says.
No, the statute says what the statute says.
MS-13.
No, if you say it's for terrorist organizations, MS-13 is a terrorist organization, right?
It's not for terrorist organizations. It's for Al-Qaeda, Taliban, and the associated
No,
forces
they
that
are,
were
no,
linked to 9/11
they
attacks.
are, no, excuse me. No, not when Obama reauthorized it, and those are, it was for terrorist organizations, which Trinde de Agua and MS-13 are. Do you agree that MS-13 and Trinde de Agua are terrorist organizations?
Oh, yeah, of course. I think Trump has the ability to get them out here just using the AEA. He doesn't
All right,
need to go.
okay, I appreciate the call. These these guys, they read a little Wikipedia, then they call in and want to sound like they're smart. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, I've been sharing that link that shows that a federal court upheld.
One call per day. All right. We don't have a lot of. There's 2 rules on the program. Okay, 1 call per day, which is most shows let you call in like once a week or even a month. 1 call per day and no profanity. Okay, those are the main 2 rules. 1 call per day and no profanity. And I don't think those are unreasonable. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning. It's the mom from Lake Worth.
Yeah, Lake
How are
Worth.
ya?
All right, Lake Worth.
Yeah, I called you the other day. You didn't believe me about my old lady being illegal. But I'll say. So, what do you think about RFK? You like him?
Which one? There's 2 of them.
Well, the one who's still alive.
I like them both.
Okay. How do you feel about the vaccines? Do you think they cause autism?
I don't know. They haven't released the official report yet. When they release that, when Bobby Kennedy releases the official report, then we'll talk about it. But he has not released the report as to their findings on the causes of autism yet. It'll be maybe over the summer.
Okay.
By the way, you called the other day and said you're MAGA.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Yeah, I know that, and I said you were lying. Now listen, I got to run for our break at the top of the hour. But if you're on hold, hang in there. We'll go back to the phones after our top of the hour break. My name's Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's. See, I got a lie detector built into my brain. You're listening to Florida's longest running radio show, the Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977. My name is Brian Craig. Our number 888-465-2631. We'll take our break for the top of the hour and be right back. Don't go anywhere. If you're on hold, hang in there, guys. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. If you're on hold, hang in there. There's one opening on the board. Stand by. If you're new to the channel, my name's Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe. And just to let you guys know, we're on a bunch of radio stations in Morning Drive Live. And when I'm on the radio, I'm also streaming here on YouTube. So you can't use profanity on the radio. So that's why these callers that use profanity have to go bye-bye. And we do have to take commercial breaks. So, So I have to let callers go when it's commercial break time. Stand by. We'll be back shortly, and I'll go right back to the phones. Welcome, everyone. We'll be back in a little more than a minute.
My name's Brian.
Very busy phones. I'm going to go right back to the calls after the break. And, all the calls are completely screenless and unvetted, okay? Nobody answers the phone. When you call in, I just put you on hold. And I don't know who's on hold or what they're going to talk about until I click them on the air. Less than a minute. We'll be back. Well, thank you. Now, some of the callers talk low because they don't want to wake up their parents. Listening to Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show. Back to our phones we go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. All right. Once, twice. All right. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Conservative Doug.
Oh, hey, Doug.
Wow. Man, I watched that cabinet meeting. What a bunch of good people he has behind him, man. This is fantastic. I've never seen anybody's out to try to do their best, and that's what they're doing, man. This is being transparent is really good for America, I think. Everybody's seeing what's going on there. Now, you mentioned the Constitution. In my opinion, the Constitution is for citizens. It's not for invaders.
No, well, it's not for invading armies. And, invading armies do not have constitutional protections. Correct. Now, the Constitution applies to people that are in the country, but not invaders.
Well, I'm even skeptical on that. I'm saying if you're a citizen, you should have constitutional.
No, anybody who's in the United States legally has constitutional protections to a certain extent.
Oh, legally.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, but not as much as I think the citizen has.
No, if you are a part of an invading force, which the illegals are, no, you don't have constitutional right. I know liberals want to think they do, but liberals didn't think the J6ers had constitutional rights, did they?
Yeah, exactly. It depends on what side of the aisle you're on, I guess, before you have constitutional rights or not. But this is really great. The country's heading the right way, and I'm so proud of President Trump. I'm hoping he's going to get a third term, in my opinion. I said that 2 years ago. I said maybe Congress will pass something and let him be president again if he wants it.
Yeah.
But I certainly think he like you said, I would vote for him for 5 terms. I think he certainly deserves it.
Oh yeah, I would vote for President Trump in 2028 without even thinking about it. Absolutely.
Me too, man.
Without even... All right, I appreciate the call, Doug. Yeah, absolutely. Why would you not? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, you hung up on me because I didn't know a vague direction east.
No, I didn't ask. It's one call per show, okay? And you've actually... This is your third call because you called another time. Yeah, okay, all right. Dump button again, Mike. Oh, my goodness. All right, if you're on hold, hang in there as we wait for the delay to re-engage. This program, we give a freedom on this program that no other show does. All the calls to this program are 100% screenless and unvetted. We could have someone answer the calls. We don't. You call in, I put you on hold, I take you cold on the air. And it's a privilege that can be taken away from individuals, and I hate to do that. Now, while we're waiting for the delay to re-engage, it gives me an opportunity to talk about the laser away pain treatment from Dr. Appleton. You guys, he's rid me of pain 7 times. And, Dr. Appleton, he performs all the laser treatments himself. I didn't know that because he performed all of mine, and I thought I was just getting the VIP treatment. But no, he performs all of them himself. No assistance, no one. He does them all himself, which is amazing. You get the expertise of the doctor. I have met and talked to so many of our listeners. Some of them are on some of the recorded commercials on the program who used to live in pain and don't any longer because they took my advice, went and saw Dr. Philip Appleton, and he treated them with the laser away pain treatment, and their pain is gone. Like it has been with me 7 times with injuries, sometimes arthritis, aging, my knee pain, my shoulder injuries. All the pain's gone. And Dr. Appleton's laser wave pain treatment repairs the damage that's causing the pain. So that's why when he rids me of pain, I'm pain-free forever because he's fixed me. It's amazing. It works. There's no drugs, no downtime, no surgery, no shots, injections, none of that. And it's 100% painless. And oh yeah, the best part, it works. Give Dr. Appleton a call. Appointments are not necessary. Walk-ins are welcome, even on Saturdays. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonCairo.com. All right, the delay is re-engaged. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Frank.
All right.
Calling from California.
All right, Frank. What's on your mind?
Oh, wow. I'm on the show?
You're on, man.
Oh, cool. Actually, I just wanted to say I really appreciate your show, man. I drive truck for a living, and I listen to you. I listen to you every night, and you got a really great show. And you're right about the cabinet meeting. Very refreshing compared to the last administration. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm a Trumper for life, brother.
That's good. What kind of truck do you drive a truck? What are you hauling?
Yeah, actually, me and my wife. I work for I haul actually Esty.
What?
It's all over the country. They're all over the country. I haul Esty freight.
Okay, I don't know what that is. Oh, well, welcome to the show. Appreciate the call. I don't know. We got to dump that. I don't know what that is. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Mark Van, and I'm actually calling from Florida.
Okay, well, that's good. You're talking to me in Florida. You're in Florida. I'm in Florida. So, okay. What's on your mind, man?
Yeah, I just want to, I had a question dealing with the Constitution, and I heard the question y'all was bringing up as far as dealing with the Constitution, and this is my question: is why do we have in this document, and this is in our Constitution? As a matter of fact, this is the Article 1, and this an article. I'm to this day, I'm an 80s baby. I'm still kind of frustrated how we still got this. Excuse my French. I don't know.
No profanity. No profanity.
Okay. I'm glad you cut me out before. Okay.
So what's in the Constitution that you have a problem with?
With England, and
with England,
are Americans. And yeah, okay. Just hear
what
me
does
out.
it say in the Constitution about England?
England put in our Constitution before all of us was born, by colonizing us, that we could never. This is what article? That's Article 1.
No.
And I want to say that's Section 9.
Article 1. Hold on. Let me pull this up. Hold on. Slow down. I'll Google it. Okay. Article 1. Section what? What section?
Article 1, and I could be wrong. I want to say Section 8 or Section 9. Just check it out for me.
I can't. All right. Well, check it out yourself and then tell me what your beef is. I mean, come on. Now he doesn't know. England didn't write our Constitution, guy. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. This is Ken from New Orleans.
Hey, New Orleans. What's up?
Hey, not much. Hey, man, I want to say, man, it turns my stomach to hear these Americans calling in and just, making every excuse they can think of for these illegal aliens, these illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
This guy beats his wife. He's got MS-13 on his knuckles. They make every excuse in the world.
Mm-hmm.
If I beat my wife, if I have gang tattoos on me, are they going to make excuses for me?
In fact, domestic violence, his wife went to court with the beating her with the fist. Domestic violence makes you ineligible to become a U.S. citizen. You cannot immigrate and become a U.S. citizen if you're involved in domestic violence cases like he has been. It's a disqualifier.
Right. And I want to say this, these aren't, the immigrants of your grandma and your grandpa's day. These aren't the immigrants from Italy that came in the 20s and the 30s that came here to work and that loved America. These are people that don't like America. They're coming here to steal from us, to live off of us.
That's right.
The hospitals, the schools, my kids' schools overrun with illegals.
And rape and murder our women.
But you don't hear any of that from the Americans. All they do is call in and cry for these illegals.
The liberals.
I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
Trump's getting rid of every single one of them, and I'm supporting them. And I'd rather spend every dime sending them back where they're from than to support them to live here on my dime.
Yeah.
Get rid of them all.
That's right.
That's what I say.
Well, listen, I got to run for a break, but thanks for the call. I agree with everything you said. If you're on hold, hang in there. You're listening to The Steve Kane Show. My name's Brian. Our number, 888-465-2631. We'll be right back. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll be back shortly. I'll go back to the calls. We got about 30 seconds and we'll be back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. This is Steve Kane Show. We've covered a lot. I'll go back to the phones. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. Once. Twice. All right, you're out. Okay, now, if you're on hold, hang in there. There's a story that, before we take some more calls, I want to share with you. I want to pull this up. And this is absolutely amazing. This issue about the MS-13 on this fake Maryland man's hand. It's actually there in code, right? When you see the tattoo on his hands, he has a marijuana leaf, a smiley face, a cross, and a skull. Now, of course, he's a Spanish speaker, and it's code for MS-13 in Spanish. And this is it decoded, okay? The marijuana leaf, even in Spanish, that's an M. That's the M on the first finger. The marijuana leaf, code for M from MS-13. The smiley face, even in Spanish, that starts with an S. So the smiley face is for the S. That's the MS in MS-13. The third finger with the cross. The cross symbolizes singularity and the number 1. That's the 1 in MS-13. And then his last finger with the tattoo has a skull on it. And I'm going to mispronounce this because my Spanish was so bad. But in Spanish, skull starts with the letter C, calavera. And C is the third letter of the alphabet, which is 3. That's your MS-13 in code on the fake Maryland man's MS-13 confession tattoos. All right, back to the phones. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Scott, Kansas City.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah. Can you imagine any kind of tools that the opposition could use to foil, toil, or spoil Trump's efforts if he should enact habeas corpus to stymie everything?
Listen. When they're taking issue with the color of his suit, they're going to take issue with anything he does, okay? So there's nothing Trump can do that they're not going to gripe about. However, Hakeem, it was reported today that Hakeem Jeffries, he's the Democrat leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries has been privately meeting with Democrat members of Congress, pleading with them to stop going to El Salvador to meet this wife beater. So that tells us the poll numbers aren't in their favor on that, and they finally realized it, that Trump's got the popular viewpoint on that.
Yeah, I just had to wonder what that was all about. If only that, hey, if we can get this guy back and give him a proper hearing, which that's past due.
He had proper hearings. He had proper hearings. That's a liberal urban legend that he didn't get due process.
Yeah, I know that, but you know, if they, my thoughts were if they can resurrect and bring this guy on, then they can stop the whole effort, which is insane. Mm-hmm. It's madness.
Oh yeah. Well, they're insurrectionists, the Democrats. They're operating an insurrection against the president of the United States.
It's different times to them when Clinton gave Reno the tools to turn around the second Cuban boat lift.
Yeah,
that was a different time. This is another time. They want one party rule.
That's correct. All right, appreciate the call. All right, great call. Agree with everything you said. All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Speak up. All right. Well, they gave up. All right, they hung up. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. Once, twice. All right, you're out. Now, the rest of you on the air, stand by. Just to do a recap on what caused all this commotion on the program the last 1 hour and 22 minutes. In the cabinet meeting yesterday, President Trump hinted that he is thinking of suspending habeas corpus for the illegals, or at least the violent MS-13 Trinde ones. That means no lawyer, no judge, no courtroom, just deportation. You get arrested, you're deported. And I hope he does that. And of course, the liberal callers are in a panic because this violent army of terrorists in this country, for some reason, they want to keep the terrorists in America. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air.
Hi, Brian. My name is Donna from Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to mention there was a caller earlier that spoke about Obama and the suspending habeas corpus, and I had remembered that, but I also was wondering why they're not mentioning the Alien Friends Act of 1789. They keep mentioning the Enemies Act, but there's also the Friends Act of the Alien Friends Act of 1789, where there's no war or invasion clause.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, it's included with the aliens.
Okay.
Enemy
I'll look into it. Hey, appreciate the call. I will most definitely look into it. Yeah, you got to wonder, why are all these callers in favor of these violent invaders of our country? What is it just Trump derangement syndrome? What is it? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. This is Dave in Royal Palm.
Hey, Dave. What's up?
I was just, I was just wondering if it's possible that the president can declare a war against an entity that is not a state, and if so, he treats these invaders as
no.
warriors.
He's first off,
now,
the United States has not declared war since the Second World War. All right, so
I know what I'm saying is, does he have the ability to declare war against an?
Well, the president doesn't. The president doesn't declare war. They ask Congress to declare war.
But can he do that 60 or 90-day thing where he acts? And if so, if some of these judges under the condition of war, if they aid and abet these, can he hold them as prisoners of war?
I mean, that's not going to happen. There's no need to do that, and that would be destructive. What he's doing now he did something that was amazing. Not only did he declare MS-13 and the Trinde terrorist organizations, he also declared the drug cartels terrorist organizations. So that gives him incredible power. He could order Air Force bombings of the cartels in Latin America if he wanted to, legally. So he already has those. He already has those powers because they're terrorists. Bombing them would be like bombing ISIS.
Yeah, and I'd like to see some of that on some of the warehouses or whatever. But,
yeah, me too.
Yeah. But in any case, hopefully this is going to go well, and I'm sure with Donald Trump working the problem, we'll probably get some good results one way or the other.
You got nothing to worry about with Trump in charge. Hey, appreciate the call. Now, I want to talk to you guys about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. You guys know I've lost over 35 pounds. My goal was 25, and I set that goal pretty high. I didn't think I'd be able to do it. I did it like in less than a month, and now I've lost over 35 pounds, and you can too. And people... it's amazing to me how many people ask me about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. More than any of our other sponsors, people always ask me about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. Every conversation I have with somebody off the other asking me about it because people want to lose weight and they see how much weight I've lost. I've never been on any type of diet or weight reduction plan in my life other than, okay, I'm not going to drink soda for a while or something like that. I've never been on a thing. So I was a little nervous when I went there. Before I met with them, because I thought, oh man, I'm going to be starving all the time. I'm going to have this little piece of food that I got to eat that doesn't taste good, and it's just going to be tough, and I'm to do it, and I'm going to have to exercise all the time, and all this stuff. None of that's the case. I'm not taking any prescription medications like Ozempic. I do zero exercise, and I'm eating foods I would normally eat. All right? Give them a call. I've lost over 35 pounds, and you can too. And if you want to lose less or more, they can help you too. If you want to lose 20, 25, 40, 50, 100, 150, 200 pounds, give Coastal Weight Loss Secret a call. When you call, make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel. Okay? Here's their number, 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. That's 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightloss.secret.com. We'll be right back. If you're on hold, hang in there. Okay, about 30 seconds, we'll be back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. You're listening to The Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. I'll take another call or two, but I got a lot of other stories to cover. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. This is Sue from Michigan.
Hey, Sue. What's up?
Hey, yeah, I'm in a relatively small to medium town, and I do work in the public. One of the things I have noticed lately is a definite change in our clientele, our people. And something else I have noticed.
Well, what's the change? Before we get to the next one, what's the change from what to what?
Military-styled men with groups of younger women.
Okay.
And they claim like they'll call each other familiar names, but it doesn't look that way.
Okay, so what do you think's going on? What are you getting at?
This habeas corpus.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that there's underlying things going on that a lot of people can't see, like the liberals. They're not seeing what's going on in these small towns and the women and young girls that are being hurt.
Well, a lot of them they know about because, while they're not seeing it maybe in their neighborhoods, they're hearing about a lot of them in the news and they just don't care. We've got, Democrats.
I can't understand that.
Because Democrats are mental patients. They hate this country.
Well, that I understand.
Okay? And they hate this country. Like, let me give you an example, okay? There's a story I was going to get to, but I'll talk about it with you. There's a Trenday de Agua guy, right? He's a truck driver. He got into a car crash that was his fault, okay? He caused the crash. 18 vehicles were in that crash. That was his fault. At least 5 people have died, 2 of them young children. And, these 5 people and 2 young children would be alive today if a Democrat judge did not release him. He was released by a liberal judge, okay? And they'd be alive today if it wasn't for that Democrat judge. And how do the Democrats process it? They process it like this. I got a call in the first hour. A guy said, but Americans commit crime at a higher rate than the illegals. Well, that's not true, but even if it was true, so what? These are all preventable crimes. These are all people that would be alive today if the border had been enforced by Biden. Exactly. These are preventable crimes by keeping them in South America. And I got to tell you, a guy called in from Miami, a line that he was in Miami earlier. By the way, thanks for the call, guy. I appreciate the call. You make a good point. A guy called in earlier who said he was in Miami and he wasn't, right? Remember that guy? I live in South Florida, and every once in a while, my wife and I have to go to Miami. And my wife and I were in Miami about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And when you're driving in Miami, it's a whole nother deal. Okay? We got on I-95. We were leaving Miami Beach, got on I-95 northbound from the 195, just east of Biscayne. It was terrifying. People were driving in crazy ways. And you know why? It's the same problem they have in Springfield, Ohio. These are illegals that are in the country that never learn how to drive in their own country. And all of a sudden they're here with driver's licenses and they're on the road. They don't know how to drive. It's very dangerous what's going on. And all of these crimes, like this truck accident where this guy got 5 people killed, 2 of them young children. Even if it were true that illegals committed less crime, it's not true. But even if it was true, these are all people who would not have been victimized or would be alive if they weren't here in the first place, okay? And that's a reality. Now, I want to play this clip. AOC, this is AOC talking about the president.
Of course, I mean, we should never take impeachment off the table. We should never take where we see law breaking. We should never take accountability off the table. And I don't think that we should be, promising anything the way that Trump tries to promise certain, locking up his political enemies. But
locking up his political enemies? What political enemy is President Trump locking up? I think she's got her presidents mixed up. Biden was doing that with Americans.
I do believe that our legal processes exist for a reason. Impeachment exists for a reason, and it should absolutely be on the table. It should be on the table for every president. Every president should know that if you break the law, you could be prone to removal from office.
But should you pursue it? Should you pursue impeachment?
Should it be pursued?
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that there is plenty of law breaking that should be examined and looked at.
Really? What laws?
The question is what articles, what would be filed, etc. But
okay. Now, AOC, I'm looking at AOC here. Underneath her eyes is so puffy. She needs to be in a program. To me, she looks like she's an alk. She's drinking heavily. I mean, you see the puffy eyes? To me, that's what an alcoholic looks like. I could be wrong, but she's got like that look of somebody who's drinking pretty heavily there. She really needs to get in an AA program, and AA is a good program. It saves a lot of lives and helps a lot of people. And if you look at her, the eyes at her age. Now here's their other winner, Jasmine Crockett.
As far as I'm concerned, you randomly kidnapping folk and you.
Okay, now she's talking about President Trump. She's saying President Trump is randomly kidnapping people. Who is he kidnapping?
As far as I'm concerned, you randomly kidnapping folk and you throwing them out of the country against their civil rights, against their constitutional rights. And frankly, how would they feel if some other country decided that they were going to just start throwing people randomly in our country? Like that is absolutely insane. So yes, all I got to say is y'all need to get these fools out of here. But
okay, that's Jasmine Crockett pretending to be black. She's the face of the party now. Her and AOC, and maybe they could be running mates together. But here's the thing: no one's being kidnapped. Everyone's getting due process. But terrorists don't go through the regular civilian court system, right? I mean, and these positions that they're taking on the left. It's almost like they want to lose elections. Now, I don't want them to wise up and start doing the right thing because I want them to continue to turn people away from them. Every time they speak, they're red-pilling someone else. Now, someone earlier said, why do you not like Democrats? All Democrats are completely insane and anti-American and supporting incredibly anti-American, very dangerous things. What position are Democrats supporting today that is a good one, that helps Americans? All I hear them doing is advocating for murderers, advocating for rapists, advocating for terrorists, advocating for wife beaters. They're not advocating for law-abiding Americans ever. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brian Lake Worth.
Hey, Lake Worth. What's up?
You were just talking about the drivers and Miami. Last week I went down to pick up a vehicle with my truck and a pickup truck and small 20-foot trailer. I'm driving down 95, get off 441 to 9 turns from 1 lane to 2 lanes.
Yeah.
From 2 lanes to 1 lane, excuse me. I'm following traffic. Traffic's moving right along regular. I see a few cars in my mirror on the other side merging in. Well, then I just continued on. And all of a sudden, I feel a bump, and I look behind me, a little red car bumped my trailer. So I pulled down, went down a little further where I could pull off the road safely. And I called the cops, and a state cop came up to what happened. I explained to her. She said the woman that was with her couldn't speak English. Although she told me I hit her. I said, I didn't hit her. I was just driving down the road. Well, anyways, she calls for another cop that could speak her language, with Creole or something.
Creole, oh.
And he says, what were you doing? I said, I was just following traffic in the lane. I'd never moved from one side to the other, and these cars kept merging in. This woman came, well, he talks to her, and the woman tells her she was at fault. Well, after he talks to her in Creole, he comes over and she talks to her on the other side of the car, and I'm waiting to get ready to go. And I get a ticket for $179 for causing an accident.
Oh, my goodness.
So the guy was still there. I said, the state cop was still there. I said, how could I cause the accident? He said, well, she said she was beside your trailer. You should have slowed down and let her go. So I'm going to have to stop, put my brakes on, the whole line of traffic behind me to let someone that...
Well, here, this is what's happened, okay? And we heard this with the Springfield, Ohio. The Haitians that Biden dumped here, they've never driven before. And they come here and they give them cars and driver's licenses, and they don't know how to drive. And that's what's going on, and it's gotten worse in the last couple years in Miami.
So I went down to Miami to pick up my vehicle, and the guy said, you got to have a camera in your car because there's some terrible drivers down.
That's right, you do. You do.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you.
Okay, I appreciate the call. Yeah, I mean, that's what's going on. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, it's Renee from Harlem.
Hey, Renee.
Yeah, listen, you better watch your mouth when you talk about AOC and Jasmine Crockett, all right? Because they're the leaders of our party, and they don't need no guff from idiots like you.
Well, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help AOC. I want to get AOC off the sauce. She looks like she's drinking too much.
Yeah, right. Like you don't drink?
No,
and like that idiot Marjorie Trailer Trash Green doesn't drink? Give me a break.
Drinking to excess is different than having an adult beverage from time to time socially.
You drink too much.
No,
you
only
drink
on our
too much.
Only once a year on our cruises.
You can't even speak another language.
I speak American Standard English.
Spanish better than you, boy.
So what? I'm an American. I just need English.
Man, you can't even speak English.
Okay, I speak American Standard English.
American
Standard English. We have a dialect. American Standard English is a dialect of English.
You know how stupid you sound?
That the British speak English,
like the Gulf
but they
of America.
say things different and spell things differently. Yes, the Gulf of America. That's correct.
Yeah, retards tend to do that.
Retards. Why would you use such a offensive term to describe people who are mentally disabled?
It fit.
Mm-hmm.
It fit.
You realize you're living in Trump's America, right?
No, it's not Trump's America.
It's Trump's America.
It's my America.
It's Trump's America.
No, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not.
It's Trump's America.
Definitely not.
Why are you so angry?
He's a racist.
Okay.
He's a rapist. He was.
All right, appreciate the call, Renee. He's just getting out of control. I got to take a break. That's why I ended the call. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. We'll be right back. Mm-hmm. Scott? Okay, hey, Scott, hold on. I'll be with you in a minute. William, thank you so much. We'll be back soon, guys. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. If you're on hold, hang in there. We're going to talk with Scott for a moment from Cut My Kilowatts, and he's going to share with you how he can save you money each and every month for the rest of the time you live in your home with Radiant Barrier. Scott, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Brian. Radiant Barrier is the cheapest, most effective way to cut your energy bill 20 to 30%. And right now there's a federal income tax credit with a 30% back. So between the tax credit savings and the energy savings on your electric bill, most people actually have the money back in their pocket that they invested into this in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, that hot weather is already here, and the hottest months haven't even hit us yet, Scott. It was hot yesterday.
And right now, I mean, you can get the Radiant Barrier put in at winter pricing, which is about $1 a square foot. And I mean, it's because we can do the work in like half the time, sometimes even a third of the time, because it's so much cooler. We don't have to take breaks.
Yeah.
The guys aren't exhausted. I mean, they can move quickly.
Yeah, July and August gets here, and it's very difficult. And, you know, what the Radiant Barrier does, it cools the temperature in your home by a lot. And, you know, your garage, there's no insulation over your garage unless you've added it, right? So in someone's garage with Radiant Barrier, they actually get to reclaim that space, and it becomes habitable. Because how much does the temperature get reduced in the average garage, Scott, with the Radiant Barrier?
10 to 15 degrees in the garage and
Wow.
30 to 40 degrees in the attic.
Wow.
So when you're storing stuff, your stuff doesn't get damaged up in your attic either. It actually, your whole house is cooling from 10 to 15 degrees cooler. That's why the air conditioning, the air conditioning runs about half the time, and the air conditioning is about 80% of your bill.
Yep.
In South Florida, so you cut that run time in half, you're saving 20-30% on your bill.
That's right. And those of you that have that one room in your house that's always hot, the hot room, the sauna room in your house, hotter than all the other rooms, it's usually the room furthest away from the AC unit in the house. That's gone. It'll be as cool as the other rooms with radiant barrier. And if you have a 2-story home, a lot of people with 2-story homes have 2 AC units. You're going to see a massive savings. You get that radiant barrier in. Listen, I'm going to give you Scott from Cut My Kilowatts cell phone number. You can call or text. He'll give you a quote right over the phone. 954-939-1500. 954-939-1500. That's 954-939-1500. All right, Scott, we'll talk tomorrow.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Have a blessed day.
All right.
God bless everybody.
All right, take care. Scott's a good guy. He's been with us many years on the program. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Brian from Oklahoma. I just wanted to call and say Renee's a girl's name, and the only thing tough about that dude is its smell. All right, keep up the good work.
All right, you can smell people over the radio. That's some talent you have. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Brian. It's Lisa in Tennessee.
Hey, Lisa.
Hey, listen, you've had some callers, earlier today and then other days, where I've heard these men, it cracks me up that it's men, that are saying, the Garcia guy from El Salvador, his wife is standing up for him. So these people are not trained in what abuse looks like, in a victim. She was being interviewed. The wife was being interviewed by that black guy with the space in his teeth. I forget, he used to be a football player. And he was trying to get her to talk about why she filed the charges against her husband.
Oh, yeah, the guy that went up on the Bezos rocket. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
So he's trying to question her. Now, listen to her answer. This is how you know she's being abused. Her answer to him asking her to describe the beating was, he's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, if she talks about it, he will kill her again.
Yeah, she's scared.
Yeah.
She's scared.
These people are so ignorant. When her 2 answers 2 times in a row, if you look at that interview, both times she just says he's still alive.
And
that means
you're right, and
word,
it's sadly it's very common for battered women to bring the man that beats them up back to the home multiple times, and sometimes
correct.
they do it in a cycle for the rest of their lives. There's another thing too. Okay, they're raising a lot of money for her through these crowdfundings and everything. So she's making a lot of money too. I don't think she wants him home.
No.
If he comes home, he's going to take the money, right?
If she's even getting the money, right? That's probably still going to somebody else.
MS-13 might be shaking her down for it. I would not be surprised.
I don't doubt it. But when you see a woman saying, when they want her to describe the beating or what happened, did this really happen? And her response is that he's still alive. That means if she agrees with anything or says anything, she's not going to be alive.
This is amazing to me. The Democrats and these corrupt judges are trying to bring a wife beater back to America and put him back into the home with the woman that he beat up with his closed fist multiple times. Where are the I'm sure there's still in existence advocacy organizations for battered women. Where are they? I don't see any of them in the news during all of this.
Right. And when the real battered women's companies or I don't want to say company, but groups that help them. And remember, that's on a volunteer. It's you call them for help.
Yeah.
You call them for help.
It sounds like you have. It sounds like spousal abuse is something you have a connection to.
This is so obvious. And
I mean, what's your connection to spousal abuse? Because you an
well, actually, I'm a health coach, but I have a good girlfriend who is an advocate, and I've thought about taking the advocacy. It's like a 6-week course.
Well, you should.
An advocate.
That's a great thing. You could do a lot of good.
Well, thank you. Well, listen, you have a great day.
I appreciate it. Yeah, she makes some good points. You know, somebody asked earlier, you know, why do you like Democrats? Democrats are terrible people. You know, I got this book a week or so ago, and it's the most difficult book I've ever read. And I don't mean that it's because the language. It's I've had this book for over a week, maybe 2 weeks, and I'm only on page 28. And what makes this book hard to read is the content. I was watching. I binge watched a show a few weeks ago. It was a time travel show called Timeless, and it was about time travelers. And they had an episode about Harriet Tubman. And then I was like, oh, Harriet Tubman. I never really learned too much about her other than the basics. And I went on Amazon. I ordered this biography of Harriet Tubman, which is, she was an incredible woman, one of the greatest women to ever live. Certainly, she's in the top couple greatest American women to ever live, if not the greatest American woman, Harriet Tubman. If you don't know who she is, do a Google search. You should. It's sad. The book is titled Harriet Tubman, The Road to Freedom. And the reason that this book is difficult to read, the Democrats were the slave owners, right? There were no Republican slave owners. We were freeing the slaves. And what this book deals with, the part that I'm in, the reason I'm only on page 20, let me see, make sure I'm on the right. Yeah, I'm on page 28. I only read 27 pages, is because it's talking about life on in the Democrat slave household that Harriet Tubman grew up in. And we all know slavery was bad, okay? We know that. And the Democrats, shame on you. I mean, just their Democrat party is just a terrible party. They launched an insurrection against the United States government. It's called the Civil War, but it was the Democrat insurrection because the Republicans were ending slavery. But this gets into the details of how cruel the Democrats were to their slaves. I'm not going to describe it now, but I can only read a page or two at a time. It's very detailed, and I got to put it down. It's going to take me 10 years to read this book if they don't get beyond that. I mean, the Democrats have always been terrible people, immoral people, low-life people. And I often point out that if you go through anything that the Democrats, the left, want America to apologize for, the sins and stains of American history, always brought to you by Democrats. Everything. Democrats have done all these terrible things, and they want us all as a country to apologize. I think the Democrat Party should apologize. And shame on those of you who are a member of it today. And this book is so... nobody needs to tell us how bad slavery was, but you don't think about all the details of it. But this book details it, and, there's no such thing as a good Democrat, unless they become a Republican. All right, 2 hours down, 1 to go. We've had some great calls today. Steve Kane will be joining us. We'll take more calls after the top of the hour break. My name's Brian Craig. This is Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. Our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you are listening. And remember, all the calls are 100% screenless and unvetted. We don't use a call screener. When you call in, I just put you on hold, and when you hear me say, you're on the air, what's your name, where are you calling from, that's the first time we talk to you. All right, 2 hours down, 1 to go. We'll be right back. Great. All right. Hey. Okay, you there? I'll recap it when we get back. Okay, I'm going to put you on hold for a minute, though. Hold on. All right, Steve, you there?
I'm here.
All right, hold on. We got a little more than 2 minutes.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Oh. Welcome back, everyone. Hour number 3 has begun. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show. Steve Kane joining us. Hey, Steve.
Good morning. How are things going?
Things are going great, and Trump made maybe what may be his biggest move of his second term. But before we do that, I take a call or two for some people that have been hanging for a while, and then I'll recap. All right, so all right, let's take 1 or 2 calls, and we're going to do a recap for people just tuning in. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian. My name is Wes Taylor. I'm calling from Eastern Kentucky.
All right, Kentucky. What's up?
I originally called whenever you pulled the Harriet Tubman book up. I live in a house in Maysville, Kentucky, that's right on the border. It was built in 1852, and I was just bragging about my house and how beautiful it is. And anyway,
really, you live in a former slave house, plantation house?
Yes, sir.
That's like living that's like living in the house from the Amityville Horror.
I know. It's beautiful, though. It's really constructive.
Yeah, but think
you
about what all the Democrats did to those slaves in that house. Oh my goodness, you don't want to know.
I know. We try not to live in that spirit. We try to, be fair to everybody and love everybody.
All right. So, other than that, what's on your mind? We got lots to do here.
I'm from Appalachia, like I said, from Kentucky, and when I got back from looking for WMDs that didn't exist in Iraq, my community was super addicted to oxycodone, that the FDA said was less addictive, but Pam Bondi and Jeb Bush kept the pill pipeline open. And
well, okay, now first off, that's not true what you just said about the pill pipeline in Florida, because Steve and I live in Florida and we know what happened. I'll agree with you that slow down. I want to correct you, but slow down. I will agree with your first part. George W. Bush is a war criminal who lied about WMDs in Iraq. There's no doubt. Pam Bondi was organized a massive statewide task force that busted the doctors all over our state that were writing the prescriptions for the fentanyl. So that's what you said is just not true.
Yes, sir. I would like to add to it, please. To what you're saying there. I agree with what you're saying, but are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, she rejected Kentucky's version of what you're saying.
Well, I don't know about Kentucky. I don't know about Kentucky, but you called out. I don't know about Kentucky, but I'm in Florida, and in fact, there was one of those pain clinics in my neighborhood. Okay, and I got off the air one day. I'm driving home. There were like 50 cops busting in. Okay, nice. so no, Pam Bondi. Okay. I don't know about Jeb, but Pam Bondi cleaned all that stuff up. That you're just wrong about that. I'm in Florida and saw her do it. Okay. Okay. She was not the Attorney General of Kentucky. She was not the attorney. Oh my goodness.
In Florida.
Do you have that Gulf? You were in the Gulf. You were in Iraq. Do you have that Gulf War? All right. I got it. All right. Appreciate the call. I think he's got that Gulf War syndrome affecting his brain.
That was an enlightening call.
Oh yeah. Pam Bondi was not the Attorney General of Kentucky. Okay, that's not in that. Now she is. She's the Attorney General of everybody. She was the Attorney General of Florida, and anyone in Florida will tell you. They did massive arrest. And and another thing, every once in a while, I'll go inside Walgreens to get a prescription instead of the drive-thru. And you can see these fentanyl addicts when they can't get their prescription renewed. They have freakouts. It never used to be that way. So Pam Bondi did her job. All right, so let me recap what I opened the show with at 6, Steve, because this is an amazing thing. President Trump had a cabinet meeting yesterday.
I watched it.
Yeah, it was live on television, and I watched it too. And I love these cabinet meetings. He said something in the cabinet meeting that no one in the media is picking up on except me, unless you've seen it somewhere. And I think it was the biggest takeaway from the whole cabinet meeting, which I'll tell you what it is in a moment. But these cabinet meetings that President Trump has, they are all historic. I don't know if I've lost count. Is this the third or fourth one? But we have never seen these cabinet meetings before, ever in history of the presidency. They all have them, but they've never shown them on TV. What they usually do, they bring in the cabinet and the press take photographs and videos of them sitting at the table smiling. And then they kick them out and have the meeting. Okay? President Trump actually has the meeting live on television. The entire meeting. And sometimes they go on for 2.5 hours. And it's amazing what he does, Steve. He goes through every...
The degree of openness of this administration is unprecedented.
The most transparent presidency in history. And he goes to each cabinet member one by one. They tell the president what they've done, what they're doing, and what they're going to do, right? And then the press are there to ask questions about it. We've never seen this before.
No, it's never happened.
No, and... Yeah.
This is why you've never seen
it. Yeah, they all have cabinet meetings, but they're always in secret, not President Trump. And a lot of the things that come out of these are amazing. But the biggest takeaway yesterday that the media isn't covering, because the reporter that asked the question that got President Trump to say it isn't one of the famous reporters from one of the big mainstream media outlets. So some unknown guy, they don't want to give the credit to him. You know what I mean? You got to be with one of the big outlets to get any credit. You know, when you ask the same question that's been asked 10,000 times, right? Due process. Do you believe in due process, President Trump? You know, oh, gee whiz. This reporter asked him about the judges that are illegally trying to stop him from deporting these terrorists and everything, okay?
Right.
And he said, he didn't use the word, but you know what he was talking about. He said that he's thinking about suspending habeas corpus for the illegals only. Now, habeas corpus means you get picked up by ICE, there's no lawyer, there's no judge, you're just on a plane back to wherever the heck you came from. Syria, Ghana, Venezuela, that's it. And he even said that it has been used by 3 previous presidents who are respected. And then one of our callers, Katina, from Maryland, called in today and told us who the third one was. Now, everyone knows that Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus during the Democrat insurrection that's commonly referred to as the American Civil War. Franklin Roosevelt did too, for Japanese and Germans in the country. But the third one was not somebody you would think. It was Barack Hussein Obama.
Who I think he had 300, some ungodly number of immigrants that he
millions
threw out of the country.
Millions.
Yes, 3 million. I think.
At least 3 million. Some say 6. Right? Some say 6 million. Some say 3 million. Whatever it is, he deported millions of illegals, and he suspended through the Defense Reauthorization Act, which is what they were reauthorizing the Patriot Act. Okay? And they threw some things in there. He signed it. So he suspended habeas corpus, Barack Obama, for terrorist. Okay?
You think that Trump is going to do that?
Well, that's what he was talking about in the cabinet meeting. And
talking about it and doing it are two different things.
Oh, no, you don't hear presidents talk about it like that. And Obama, when he reauthorized the suspension of habeas corpus, at the time, the terrorists were ISIS and Al-Qaeda. But he authorized them he suspended habeas corpus, Obama, even for American citizens who were in league with the terrorists, which means no lawyer, no judge. You go to Gitmo or some CIA black site in Bulgaria. That's it, right? I mean, that's it. Obama did it. And when Trump said 3 presidents did it, I think Obama was the third one he was referencing. And I think he's very serious about this because the Trinde and the MS-13ers, they're terrorist organizations. And they wouldn't be able to stop him. It is within the authority of the President of the United States to do that. It's been done. Actually, it's been done 4 times. Ulysses S. Grant did it for a domestic terrorist organization when he was president, the Ku Klux Klan. So there's been 4 presidents that have suspended habeas corpus. The most recent was Barack Hussein Obama, whose third term just ended when Trump was inaugurated, right? Because the last 4 years was Obama's third term. And I think that's beautiful and amazing, and I hope he does it because it needs to be done. Now, I want to tell people about Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas, there's not a day that goes by multiple people don't ask, "Oh, how your stock's doing? How's your 401k?" I don't have a 401k. I don't invest in the stock market. I don't like that ups and downs stuff. That's anxiety inducing. I mean, I don't have time for that. That'd give me a heart attack. I can't tell you how many people I know, friends and family, who they stress about it all the time. And then every once in a while they have a good day and they're all excited. I can't stress like that. With annuities, your hard-earned money, your nest egg is always safe, no matter what happens in the stock market. You're not risking your hard-earned money that you've worked all your life for. And you could generate income when you retire. Now, Joe Thomas offers free phone consultations. No matter where you're located in the United States, you can take advantage of this. He offers free phone consultations to our listeners. And I just want you to understand the value of that free phone consultation. Joe Thomas has been in the retirement planning business for over 30 years, and he's a 5-time qualifying member of the $1 Million Roundtable, which is achieved by fewer than 1% of all financial advisors in the world. It's amazing. So he's a top guy in the industry, and he's offering you that free phone consultation. And after that conversation you have with him that's free on the phone, he's going to put together a custom proposal just for you based on you and your situation and your goals. Okay, give him a call. Take advantage of this no-charge phone consultation. 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And if you missed the number, just go to his website, jupiterjoe.com. We'll be right back. All right, Steve, I'm going to put you on hold, Steve. Stand by. All right, Steve, you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, hold on. All right, we'll be back in just over a minute.
Okay.
All right, we're back. I'm Brian Craig. Steve Kane is here. Our number 888-465-2631. All right, I'm going to take a call or two, Steve. We got more to cover, but some of these people have been hanging. Some haven't, but you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Michael from Palm Beach Gardens, Brian. And by the way, Steve, I sat next to you and Lori the last evening of the dinner for the cruise on the Ascent. We had prime ribs of beef.
Ah.
I remember it well. It was great. It was fun having.
Yes.
It was fun.
I know it's not the subject, Brian, but in 1962, under President Kennedy, the Congress initiated the National Day of Prayer, which is the first Thursday of May, and that is today.
Oh, National Day of Prayer. Okay.
First Thursday in May, so that falls on today, May 1st.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, thanks for reminding us. All right, appreciate the call.
Okay.
Kash Patel, he did something amazing. Did you see what he did to these FBI agents, Steve?
No.
Remember those lunatic FBI agents that kneeled down before black people a couple years back to BLM?
Not to my recollection.
Yeah, they did this. Yeah, the Biden administration, they sent these FBI agents. FBI doesn't have uniforms, but they had on their hats and vests that say FBI and jackets that say FBI. And they went to a BLM George Floyd event and all got down on one. Remember the Democrats were all kneeling before black people, begging them for forgiveness for all the injustices done to black people. And all these FBI agents went to this major BLM event honoring George Floyd, who they're trying to turn into an American saint. And they got down on one knee. And some of them were wearing masks, some of them were not. Okay, well, listen to this. This is in the Gateway Pundit today. The FBI, Kash Patel, the FBI director, has demoted and reassigned the agents who took a knee at the Black Lives Matter George Floyd riots. This was in 2020. In 2020, after the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, by the way, I bet you anything, Derek Chauvin, the cop in that case, is a Democrat, right? A government worker in Minneapolis, I don't think there's many Republicans. You know? Anyway, yeah, probably. If he was a Republican, we would know, believe me. In 2020, after the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Black Lives Matter protesters sparked riots and demonstrations around America. In a show of support for BLM protesters, some law enforcement, including FBI agents, took a knee. During the Biden administration, these agents were promoted to a higher rank. So Biden saw these FBI agents take a knee begging black people for forgiveness for something they had nothing to do with, and he promoted them. In 2022, at least 14 FBI whistleblowers went to Jim Jordan in the House with allegations of misconduct and abuse within Christopher Wray's FBI. Well, anyway, to get us up to date, those FBI agents have been demoted and reassigned by Kash Patel. And that's a very strong
I'm sure
message.
There's a lot of house cleaning going on all around the White House.
Well, you know, the reason I share this is not just because that's a good thing that Kash Patel did. A lot of people are impatient about arrest. And Kash Patel and Pam Bondi took over the Justice Department and the FBI, but I bet you, Steve, that the numbers of people they can trust are small. Right? You know, the FBI and the Justice Department are filled with career bureaucrats. And you know they're all hardcore liberal activists, like these lunatic agents that took a knee. You know, so they don't...
Yeah, there's no way, realistically, there's no way of telling how many they got rid of at the switch.
No.
I mean, it's
no.
interesting to speculate about.
But they don't know... I don't think Kash Patel has a large number of FBI agents that he can fully trust to go after the lawfare people. I think they got a very small team of people they can trust, and most of them were proud of these agents that took a knee. So one of the reasons we've not seen some high profile, there's many reasons, but one of the reasons is they can't move as fast as they would like because they don't have a lot of FBI agents. So there were two big stories that came out of the cabinet meeting yesterday. The one that no one's talking about but me is that habeas corpus suspension by Trump that he referenced. That's a good one. But there was another story just as big. Did you see what happened with Marco Rubio?
No.
Oh. See, you guys got to watch these cabinet meetings live. Not in this.
I watched most of the cabinet meeting yesterday.
Oh, well, if you saw this part, you would remember it. Or maybe you'll remember it when I mention it to you. But this was huge. So, you know, President Trump goes through all the cabinet. They tell him what they've done, what they're doing, what they're going to do. They're briefing the president, right? It's a live cabinet meeting. First time in history a president has done this. We've had at least 3, maybe 4 of them. When it was Marco Rubio's turn, Florida's own Marco Rubio, who's awesome. I mean, he's great. I mean, he's just spectacular. He told...
You weren't always a big fan of Rubio.
Well, he grew up. Trump wasn't a fan of his either, remember? He was making but he grew up.
You're right about that.
Yeah. Marco Rubio briefed the president and said that at the State Department, he found dossiers created by Biden to censor Americans, including Trump officials. And let me read this story. This is in the Gateway Pundit. This is amazing. Secretary of State Marco Rubio dropped a bombshell. President Trump and his team held a cabinet meeting yesterday. Team Trump spent a good portion of the meeting touting the president's impressive record on issues on immigration to economy. But amid the celebration, Marco Rubio mentioned some disturbing information. Marco Rubio revealed that Biden's Department of State had created dossiers with the full intention on spying on the content and censoring Americans' free speech. We had an office in the Department of State, Marco Rubio told the president yesterday, whose job it was to censor Americans. Then he dropped another bombshell. At least one of the people affected and under the Biden watch is sitting at this table. He said, and by the way, there was at least one person at this table today who had a dossier on them in that building of social media to identify them as purveyors of disinformation, Rubio told the president. We're going to be turning over these dossiers to these individuals. So there's at least, so they had dossiers on people that they classified as spreading misinformation that they were spying on. And at least one of them is a cabinet official of President Trump's. Now, my guess is, well, Tulsi Gabbard's not a cabinet member. She's like an advisor. So I don't know who it would be. And he didn't even give a hint. But they had an enemies list. They were spying on people and even had dossiers to do it. And when I heard Marco Rubio share that, I was like, holy smokes. You know what's crazy? They left it behind. They didn't even destroy it. They left these you would have think they would have destroyed those dossiers, but they...
No, but I can't believe that you found it surprising.
Nothing surprises me, Steve. But
I would have certainly imagined that.
But these dossiers are, though, it's hard evidence of civil liberty violations by the Biden regime. You know, for them to have dossiers on American citizens who have broken no laws and use those dossiers to spy on them and their families, I mean, that's like KGB Soviet Union in the 1950s. Now, if you want to monitor your home, though, and get a notification on your cell phone with video every time there's movement at your door, you want to call Sloman's and take advantage of their free doorbell camera offer. You'll love this. I'm telling you guys, you can get a free doorbell camera from Sloman's that connects directly to your cell phone with the installation of your Sloman Shield. Sloman's, they're also going to give you a free customized home security system and professional installation when you use their low-cost central station monitoring. You get an LED touchscreen, a motion detector, 10 contacts for the doors and windows, a lifetime warranty, a backup battery, plus you'll receive a free doorbell camera with the installation of your Sloman Shield. Give them a call. The number's toll-free, 1-833-283-5050. 1-833-283-5050. That's 1-833-283-5050. All right, we'll take our bottom of the hour break and be right back. Steve, you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, hold on. Okay, we're back in just over a minute.
Okay. You got the board up today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't worry. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. Steve Kane is here. You're listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977. All right, a couple other things, Steve, I want to mention. By the way, if you're on hold, hang in there. If you'd like to call in, our number is 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you're listening. 888-465-2631. A couple of things I want to mention. President Trump, he did something pretty cool yesterday at the White House. The White House has launched its own news website, and it's 100% dedicated to President Trump. And those of you that remember the Drudge Report, the Drudge Report used to be the go-to place for news. And then, I don't know what happened to Matt Drudge, but it's very hardcore anti-Trump. And they have this new news website. It's called the White House Wire at whitehouse.gov/wire.
White House. I think what happened to it was this Drudge sold it, as I remember.
It hasn't never been. A lot of people think that, but it's never been established. A lot of people think the Chinese bought it, but it's never been established what happened to the Drudge Report. But it's really terrible. I used to go there all the time, and I go there rarely now. And their headline story is actually about this. But they launched this new Drudge Report style website, and this is going to become maybe the first website I go to every morning when I do my show prep. The White House, whitehouse.gov/wire, WIRE. And you go there, Steve, it has all the latest news and accomplishments of President Trump. And it's amazing. Like, let's see here. Here's the lead story. President Trump celebrates massive investments in America. 100 days of investments, over $5 trillion of new investments fuels America's future. And
it was the most exciting part. It was the most exciting part of the meeting yesterday, the cabinet meeting.
Oh, yeah.
He had all these people in the audience, a lot of the Japanese and representing the major companies in the world, and each one got up and testified as to how much money he had they'd committed to spend opening an American operation. And
yeah.
A ton of money.
And, like the cabinet meetings, I've never seen anything like that before. I mean, Trump started doing this in the first days of his second non-consecutive term here. But he brings in these people from companies all over the world, like the Japanese, and they announce these billion-dollar and multi-billion-dollar investments they're making into America. Other than Trump, anytime a president has a press conference, it's the opposite. It's a president giving billions of dollars away to other countries. I've never seen a president have press conferences bringing money into the United States. Never happened before, to my knowledge. It's amazing. And over $5 trillion. And really, the reason they put this website together is because the fake news won't report anything they're doing. So they put this...
If I understand correctly what he's doing, all this money that he's investing in this country, that's going to become regular monthly income to the government once this thing hits the ground running.
Yeah.
But the catch is it's going to take a while to kick in, and they're going to keep it going based on their sizable public relations effort, which is so brilliant it boggles the mind.
Yeah.
As you watch every day, the Trump people just take over the entire network of Fox, the Fox network.
Yeah. And this new news website, like here's an example of a story that might have been mentioned here and there, but it hasn't been focused on. Do you know that President Trump and Marco Rubio have secured and gotten 47 American hostages released from around the world in that first 100 days? From the White House. 47 American hostages from countries all over the world have been released in Trump's first 100 days. They got that.
And the point they made upon announcing yesterday, they announced the release, they reviewed the release. The astounding part of it was that it wasn't really ransom because while while Biden was paying millions of dollars to get people back, Trump was doing it with negotiation and not paying any money.
I mean, look at the big deal they made when Biden got that one BLMer, Brittany Griner, back from Russia. They have parades for her, naming schools after her. President Trump, in 100 days, has gotten 47 American hostages released. Barely in the news. You know, here's another one. And this one's going to be the next big one. In the coming, president says, in the coming weeks and months, we're going to pass the largest tax cuts in American history. That's okay. And, you know, the no tax on tips. There are so many tip workers now, more than ever. It's not just waiters, waitresses, and bartenders. You know, you got all these Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, Uber Eats, Door Dashers. All those people get tips that they pay taxes on. And years ago, before everybody went electronic, okay, you know, and people paid cash, for the very few people did not pay cash at restaurants and bars. Now nobody does, right? I mean, I don't even have cash, really. You know, I use Apple Pay to pay for everything, pretty much. The tips were cash and in their pocket. But that was like years ago. The tips, I don't know what the minimum wage is for tip workers, but it's very low. So the bulk of their income is tips. And tip workers never get tax breaks, ever. When they cut taxes, they change the income tax brackets. And tip workers, most of them, not all, but most of them are too low income to get any break on their income taxes. They don't even pay income taxes. They pay payroll taxes. So these tens of millions of Americans that are tip workers, it's the first tax break that they've ever gotten in history. And it is going to be the largest tax break in history. Also,
not only that, what about the one about the Social Security? No tax on Social Security. I mean, it seems like half the country's on Social Security.
Big chunk of it is. Yeah, and that's outrageous. The federal government take that money from you out of every paycheck your whole life. They have it in the national treasury. They spend it on whatever they want to spend it on.
And then take it out again.
And then they want you to pay taxes on it again. They're double dipping on that money. You know, so no taxes on Social Security. And I know not everybody on Social Security pays taxes, but a lot of people do. That's
this is, by the way, this thing with the taxes is all going to be fought out leading up to the election.
That's right.
So how would you like to be the Democrats with no candidate going into a PR buzzsaw like that?
Yeah, and then the big beautiful bill, no taxes on overtime, which is huge. You know, the tax on overtime is higher than the tax on the rest of the income. So I mean, this is huge. But there's other taxes too. President Trump was talking. He wants people to be able to deduct the interest on their car loans of American-made vehicles, on American-made cars.
Can you imagine what that does to the car business?
Oh, it's gonna boom like crazy. You know, you go by a car lot on Saturday, it's a ghost town. You know, but they do this and on American-made cars. And you know, people that have mortgages, you can deduct your mortgage interest off your income taxes, okay? But you can't deduct your car interest loans, which and for most people are a higher interest rate than even a mortgage. You know,
exactly. And
what that's going to do is, when that goes through, I'll probably buy a new car, and it'll be an American car. Now there's some things that got to be worked out. A lot of cars are made in the United States from foreign manufacturers. There's a lot of Toyotas and Lexuses, BMWs and stuff are made in the United States. So I don't know if they would qualify or if it would just be like the traditional American automakers, right? Ford,
whatever it is,
whatever,
it's going to be a lot of
Tesla.
good news.
Well, I know this, that when people can deduct, when people can deduct the interest on their car loans from their taxes, when you go to a car dealership, you're going to have to wait in line to get a salesman. And car dealers in this country are dying right now. They have cars that have been on the lot in some instances a year. They can't sell. And you know, car dealers, there's some car dealerships, they own the cars on their lot. But a lot of them, actually, the dealers lease the car from the big company. And they got to pay a lease every month to the manufacturer for that car that's not moving. It'll be the biggest boom in American car sales probably in history. You know, it's not just the dealers, it's the salesmen too. I got to tell you, Steve, you know, with, sorry there, I lost you for a second. These tax cuts that President Trump is talking about are so outside the box of tax cuts that no one's even considered before. The boom for the American economy is going to be off the charts. And what are these Democrats going to do, Steve? They're going to argue against tax cuts for these people?
That's the point.
As we're approaching the midterms. And you know what? In the next presidential election, whoever the MAGA candidate is, Trump, JD, Marco, right? Because Trump could run again. You know what the big issue is there? They're going to vote for us. I'm going to end the income tax. Right? We're going to run the country on tariffs. The Democrats are going to have to run against ending the income tax.
That's their most attractive issue if they can. Well, they're a little qualified when they say it, but that's their goal.
On people making under $200,000. That's 97% of Americans make under that. 97%, maybe even 98 when you get to the... And on married couples, it'll probably be 400,000. So that's like 98, 99% of Americans are not going to pay any income taxes if you vote MAGA.
Unfortunately, you make too much money.
Wait, how much money do you think I make, Steve? You think I make over 400,000?
I don't know. I signed the checks.
Yeah, okay. All right. You guys can wonder how much I make. All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Morning, Steve and Brian. It's JJ from Mass.
Oh, hey, JJ. What's up?
JJ, what's happening?
Well, hey, Steve. I think I got there's so much good news going on, but I mean, I think a really good piece of news is, according to Renee, the political genius, AOC and Jasmine are going to be the leaders. Please let it be so.
Jasmine,
really? To me, going to be the leaders of the Democrat Party. It just kind of, she plays...
You want to hang out for Kamala. You want to hang out for
I'm
Kamala.
sorry?
She's the best.
Kamala?
Oh, yeah.
The return of Kamala?
Yeah.
I don't know. She was on stage.
Return.
She was totally in the bag, tanked on stage yesterday. I think she's done. You know what? I just looked at the clock. We're late for the break. Hey, I sorry I had to cut you short, but thanks for the call. I lost track of time. We've got so many great things we're going over today. I'm going to put you on hold, Steve. We're going to come back with the Gold Report. Hey there. Hold on. Steve, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm going to conference William in. Hold on. All right, William, you there?
Yes.
All right, stand by. Okay, 1 minute. We'll be back. 1 minute. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. And it's time, as we do every day around this time, to check in with William Youngerman from the offices of William Youngerman Incorporated with the Morning Gold and Precious Metals Report. It's Thursday, William. How the metals looking?
The metals giving us a great buying opportunity. The metals pulling back on
after last week's record high of $3,500 gold, then putting in a reversal on that day and going lower. That led the opportunity for metals to continue to drop, at least gold, and giving us a buying opportunity. Gold being overbought after getting up to that $3,500 number was ready for and ripe for a pullback, and that's exactly what we've had for the last few days. Yesterday we saw gold trade in a range of $3,281 up to $3,320, and close out the day down $29.40 at $32.8730. Silver was down 32 cents, closing out the day at $32.57, while platinum was down $12 at $9.66, and palladium gained $1 at $9.27. Overnight, we saw gold really blow off towards the downside, getting down to just right around 3,200, and then coming back up. And right now we're at $3,225. That's down $62.30, but we were down almost $100 on the day at one point. But again, as things that go extreme like this, when we see extreme markets running way up and then pulling back, that's not abnormal, and certainly gives us a buying opportunity. And also, when they dip down very quickly like this, they tend to bounce off these support areas, which hopefully 3,200 will be the support for gold, for at least for the short term.
Yeah.
Gold down $62.30 at $32.25 right now. Silver down 22 cents at $32.35. We did get under 32 earlier this morning. Platinum up $4 at $970, and palladium up $13 at $940 the ounce. So that's pretty much where we are. Again, great buying opportunities, especially in the gold market right now.
Yeah, and when we're over $3,000 an ounce, when there's swings either way, it's not going to be just a couple dollars like when it was $1,500 an ounce. I don't sweat any of that. And you do something, William Youngerman, that is very unique in your industry. And I like to mention it every once in a while because I think people are amazed by this, that whatever you sell, you will buy back from people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything we sell, we make a two-way market in everything, and if we sell it, we will give you a buy price back based on the current market. So you never have to worry about where am I going to sell it when I want to sell it. You bring it right back to us, and we've been doing that for over 60 years now.
Yeah, and you're buying them. At some point, someone's going to sell them. You, your kids, your grandkids, or you may need something. And it's always good to know that William Youngerman will buy back anything that he sells to you, and that is very unusual in his industry, and it's something that really goes to the credibility of William Youngerman's shop over there. Give him a call. He opens up at 10 a.m., 1-800-327-5010, 1-800-327-5010, or stop in at 150 East Palmetto Park Road in Boca on the first floor of the Bank of America building, immediately east of US 1 Federal Highway on the south side of Palmetto Park Road. And find both his address and phone number online at WilliamYoungerman.com. That's WilliamYoungerman.com. All right, William Youngerman, we'll finish out the week tomorrow.
Okay, have a great day. Thank you.
All right, take care. Wow, Steve, over $3,200 an ounce.
That's some.
I can't believe it. It's like I get pinch myself. It's hard to believe. We're living in the future, man. We're living in the future. So anyway, just to sum up what's been going on here today, I was listening to Victor Davis Hanson, who is probably
he's great.
He's got to be the most brilliant conservative mind alive in America today.
Spectacular.
Mark Levin's the greatest conservative legal mind, right? Because he's got a knowledge of the law. But Victor Davis Hanson doesn't just have a historical outlook. He has really great analysis. And I was listening, and maybe you saw this, Steve, but Victor Davis Hanson was talking about the three-pronged attack on Trump. And who's doing it? The pollsters, the media, and the Democrats. And he was talking about these fake poll dumps that have been going on the last few days. And of course, what the media and the Democrats are doing. And what Victor Davis Hanson, he said these first 100 days have been smooth sailing for Trump. But the pollsters, the Democrats, and the media, they're trying to get this perception going that it's been a failure. And I saw this Democrat yesterday. It's amazing, Steve. Every Democrat you ever have ever heard of, all of a sudden, they're heavily invested in the market. They all have 401ks, and they're all involved in importing you know, because they always say, oh, my 401k, my stock portfolio, and the imports I'm making that I import. It's amazing, all these things that these Democrats, all of a sudden, they're all involved in. They got all these things going on. And I was listening to this guy yesterday. He was a Democrat, a liberal guy, and he says he's in the barbecue business, the barbecue sauce business. And sorry about that, guys. He's in the barbecue sauce business, and he makes the sauce in America, I guess in his kitchen, but he imports the bottles from China. And he was saying, now you guys haven't felt it yet. You haven't felt anything from the import taxes yet, you know. But my barbecue sauce bottles are costing me more if I bring them in, you know. And when he said that, it's an interesting thing. The problem the Democrats are having is these import taxes they're trying to freak us out about. None of our prices have gone up, right? So if they're in effect and so damaging, why are we not feeling it? And my next batch of barbecue sauce, those of you that buy my barbecue sauce, it's going to cost more because of the import taxes. I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people in business, not the people Steve and I are friends with, but a lot of people in business are dishonest. And a lot of people are going to raise prices and blame the tariffs, right? It's a great excuse for, I don't want to raise the price on my barbecue sauce, but I have to. The tariffs on the bottles I import from China, it's left me no choice. You know, I'm still breaking even, but I got to raise the bar. You know, so a lot of liberal businesses will raise the taxes raise the prices on products and then blame the tariff. You know, it's the nature, but you know, people. It's hard a lot of times for people to raise the price of their products. A lot of people don't like to do that for a lot of reasons. I get it. But when there's an excuse to do it, a lot of them will do it. All right, Steve, we're getting close to the end, but you want to take a call or two?
Sure.
Okay, hold on. Let me go here. So, guys on hold, get to it quick because we're really short on time. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? All right, once, twice. You didn't make it. All right, let's try another one. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brian from Deerfield.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian. Hi, Steve. How are you? You know, watching that cabinet meeting yesterday, where I got a chance to really sit down and watch, it was absolutely spectacular. It's become a must-see TV. I think, even maybe more important than watching the political rallies. When you look at the quality of the people in the cabinet, everybody I saw that was on the ball had a lot to say, very focused, and that's the way our government should be run. Now, if I compare, do you remember when Biden, I think he had a cabinet meeting, and he came in and he basically turned the meeting over to Jill Biden. I think she ran the meeting.
Yes. She said it, the president's chair.
Unelected official.
Yeah.
This last night, you saw tremendous competence there, tremendous energy. It's like having a seat at the table and just getting a feel for how everything is going in the administration. Vance made a point when he said most of our prior presidents have been caretaker presidents, unfortunately, on both sides of the aisle. And you contrast that to President Trump we have now. He is a hands-on guy, knows what he wants to do.
I'll tell you what they've been. They've been figureheads, is what they've been. For the big donors, right? They don't
yes.
And they,
it's very simple. There's never been anything like Trump. He's a phenomenon unto himself.
Well,
absolutely
don't know what to do.
At some point in the future, 200 years from now, whenever Democrats are going to be back in the White House, okay, these live televised cabinet meetings are going to become expected by the American people. Can you imagine a Democrat?
Not going to happen.
Well, Mr. President, we now have among our generals in the Army 16 more transgendered women who just got in, and we got that BLMer over at the State Department as the ambassador to Czechoslovakia. I mean, it's going to be and we've just defunded the police in New York by $10 million this week, Mr. President.
Yeah.
What would the Democrat cabinet meeting be like?
Well, that's exactly what their cabinet meetings, I believe, were like that we didn't see.
Yes, exactly.
Isn't
Exactly.
Isn't it a shame that these meetings aren't on prime time TV? I mean, I wish Right Side would carry it or something so the whole American public could see it in the evening.
Yes, I agree.
They're spectacular.
I agree.
Yeah. Great, tremendous watching that.
If you stay on Fox,
well, most people
24/7, you it's pretty solid saturation.
No, but I don't mean in sound bites. The meetings are in the middle of the day. Most people are working, and they don't get to see them live. If those were on in prime time, the networks wouldn't carry them. That's
a shame.
But it
wouldn't matter because Fox. That's the great thing about what Donald has set up there. Because he's got Fox. Basically, he runs Fox.
I liked when he went to Pete Hegseth. He says, "Oh, I want to start with my least controversial cabinet member, Pete Hegseth." And
yeah, right.
Oh my goodness!
You know, everybody was, and you talk about you better have something to report back to the president.
Hell yeah!
When you're sitting at that.
By the way,
table,
we're almost out of time, but you know, Bobby Kennedy this week said chemtrails are real. And he's going to be releasing something on them. I always thought they were kind of like a conspiracy theory. He said they're real. He's got the report. All right, appreciate the call. You know, I can't tell you, Steve, every phone call I have with anybody, they ask me about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. You know, I mean, everybody's always talking about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. You know, I was so nervous, Steve, about doing it because, you know, I'm on YouTube and stuff all the time. If I couldn't do it, everybody would see. You know what I mean? You know, and people are noticing. I've lost over 35 pounds. I told you guys, I picked my daughter up at the airport the other day. She says, "Where's the rest of my dad?" And I didn't realize I needed to lose weight until I did. You know, I guess you get kind of used to it. You know, and I've lost all the weight exactly where I wanted to, in my face, in my neck, my stomach. I've got the body that I had 29 years ago when I got married. It's amazing. I weigh about what I weighed when I got married 29 years ago. The Coastal Weight Loss Secret works, guys. I'm never hungry. I'm eating foods I would normally eat. I am doing zero exercise unless you count running my mouth every day. I do that a lot. And I'm not taking any prescription medications like Ozempic. And I've lost all this weight. You can do it too. Give them a call. And when you call, make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel. 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. That's 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightloss.com. All right, we're out of time for today, but tomorrow is Open Phones. Open MAGA Mike Friday is tomorrow already. And remember, on Friday, Open MAGA Mike Friday, you can call in about any and everything on your mind. You're not limited to the topics that Steve and I bring up. And sometimes that's the best show of the week, and then other times remember that guy that called in about frozen peas versus fresh peas and canned peas? Oh, my goodness. But, yeah, that's tomorrow. Oh, my goodness. How could you not forget? It's the Steve Kane Show. I'm Brian Craig. We'll see you tomorrow morning on Open MAGA Mike Friday. Take care, everyone. All right, we're clear. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. And everyone who's already subbed, could you do me the favor of liking the video and sharing the video on your social media? That helps grow the channel, and it's greatly appreciated. And all of you that watch every day and listen every day and are subscribed, I just want to say, we just started a new month, you know, the month of May. Thank you for your support, of your continued watching and subscribing and sharing the program and everything. It's really greatly appreciated. It's amazing to me, you know, getting these calls from all over the country, all over the world. We have people in New Zealand today, Australia, getting calls from all over America. It's amazing. We're a global MAGA program here. And it's because of you guys, and I just want to thank you all. All right, guys, listen, I got to run, but I'll see you later, all right? Take care. Thanks for watching. And remember, this is where MAGA comes to talk.